The massive chamber of the Galaxy Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their designated seats, their various forms creating a sea of colors and shapes that stretched as far as the eye could see. Some looked like giant insects with multiple arms, others resembled walking trees with glowing bark, and a few appeared as floating orbs of pure energy. Despite their differences, they all shared the same expression of shock and disbelief. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Zixthara, his reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind. His scales gleamed under the bright lights, and his yellow eyes swept across the assembled crowd with obvious satisfaction. He belonged to the hegemony, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and he knew it. Honored members of the Council, Zixthara began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber's advanced sound system, I stand before you today to announce our next conquest. The hegemony will soon claim a new world for our empire. The chamber fell silent. New conquests were not unusual announcements, but something about the ambassador's tone made everyone uneasy. Elder Vorthak, the ancient being who had served on the council for over 3,000 years, leaned forward in his chair. His weathered face showed concern as he spoke. Ambassador Zixthara, which world does the hegemony intend to claim? We must ensure that all proper protocols are followed. Zixthara's smile widened, showing rows of sharp teeth. The third planet in the Sol system. The locals call it Earth. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Gasps echoed through the chamber as representatives turned to each other in shock. Some began speaking rapidly in their native languages, while others sat in stunned silence. Elder Vorthak's face went pale, and he gripped the arms of his chair, so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Are you insane? Shouted Representative Kalamith from the Crystalline Collective. Her voice cracked like breaking glass. You cannot be serious about invading Earth. Why not? Zixthara replied, his tone casual as if discussing the weather. They are nothing more than a primitive species barely out of their stone age. Their technology is laughable, their military is weak, and their society is fragmented. We will conquer them in less than a week. Elder Vorthak slowly stood up, his ancient joints creaking with the effort. The chamber fell silent again as all eyes turned to him. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. Ambassador, I strongly advise against this course of action. The humans may appear primitive, but they are dangerous in ways you cannot imagine. They come from what we call a death world. Their entire evolution has been shaped by constant conflict and survival. Zixthara laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Death world? Elder Vorthak, with respect, your age may be affecting your judgment. These humans have barely discovered faster-than-light travel. They still fight with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. How can such backward creatures pose any threat to our advanced fleets? Because, Elder Vorthak said quietly, they are survivors. They have spent their entire existence fighting not just each other, but their own planet. Their world has tried to kill them with ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and countless other disasters. Yet they have not only survived but thrived. They have turned their harsh environment into their greatest teacher. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives debated among themselves. Some agreed with Zixthara that the humans posed no real threat. Others supported Elder Vorthak's warnings. The noise level rose until the chamber's moderator activated the silence field, cutting off all sound except from the central speaking platform. Enough, Zixthara declared. The hegemony has made its decision. We do not need the Council's permission to claim an unprotected world. I am merely informing you out of courtesy. Our fleets are already moving toward the Sol system. Meanwhile, 93,000 light-years away, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command center of the USS Defender, Earth's most advanced warship. The bridge hummed with quiet activity as his crew monitored deep space sensors and communication arrays. Jake was a tall man with graying hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. He had served in Earth's Defense Force for 20 years, working his way up from a junior officer to fleet captain. Captain, called out Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications station. "We're receiving priority transmission from command. Admiral Carter wants to speak with you immediately." Jake nodded and walked to his private communication chamber. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the stern face of Admiral Lisa Carter. She was a woman in her 50s with short black hair and intelligent brown eyes. Her expression was grim as she began to speak. "Jake, we've detected massive fleet movements in the outer system. Long-range sensors are picking up at least 50 unknown vessels approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri. They're not responding to our communication attempts." 50 ships? Jake repeated, his mind racing. "That's larger than any fleet we've ever seen. What do our xenobiology experts think?" "Dr. Ryan Foster is on his way to brief the Joint Chiefs." "Right now?" Admiral Carter replied. "He's been tracking unusual energy signatures for the past week." "Jake, I think we're about to have our first real contact with an alien civilization, and I don't think they're coming to talk." Back on Nexus Prime Station, Elder Vorthak watched as the council session descended into chaos. Representatives argued loudly about the proper response to the hegemony's announcement. Some called for immediate sanctions, while others suggested sending observers to monitor the situation. A few even proposed warning the humans about the coming invasion. As the debate raged on, Vorthak quietly activated his private communication device. He had contacts throughout the galaxy, beings who shared his concern about the hegemony's growing aggression. If the council would not act, perhaps others would. "My friends," he transmitted on a secure channel, "the impossible has happened. The hegemony is about to make the greatest mistake in galactic history. They are invading Earth, and they have no idea what they are walking into." The response came quickly from multiple sources. Some expressed disbelief, others excitement, and a few genuine fear. The humans had been observed from a distance for centuries, but no one had ever made direct contact. Most species considered them too dangerous to approach, too unpredictable to trust, and too violent to negotiate with. "What should we do?" asked one of his contacts. Vorthak looked out at the stars through the station's massive viewing window. Somewhere out there, two civilizations were about to collide in a way that would change the galaxy forever. He had seen enough wars and conflicts to know that this one would be different. The hegemony was about to learn why species stayed. "Away from death worlds, we watch," he replied simply. "We watch and pray that when the dust settles, there will still be a galaxy left for the rest of us to inhabit." Commander Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on the main display. His forearms were crossed behind his back in a gesture of confidence as he studied the primitive world. Before him, Earth looked peaceful from space, with its white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown continents. "Such a beautiful world," he said to his second-in-command. "It will make a fine addition to our empire. The locals won't even know what hit them." Kethver belonged to the same species as Ambassador Zixthara, but unlike the diplomat, he was a soldier through and through. His dark green scales bore the scars of many battles, and his red eyes had seen the fall of dozens of worlds. He commanded the hegemony's advanced fleet of 30 warships, each one powerful enough to destroy a small moon. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting primitive vessels moving to intercept us. They appear to be using chemical propulsion and basic fusion drives. Their weapons seem to be simple projectile launchers and explosive devices." Kethver's mouth opened in what his species considered laughter. "Projectile weapons? What are they going to do? Throw rocks at us? Begin the attack? Let's show these primitives the power of the hegemony." On Earth, alarms blared throughout the Defense Force Command Center. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the middle of the chaos, her hands moving quickly over the holographic control panels as she coordinated humanity's response to the alien threat. Officers ran back and forth carrying reports and updates, their voices mixing into a steady hum of urgent activity. "Admiral," called out Captain Jake Morrison over the communication link, "the Defender is in position with the rest of the fleet. We count 30 alien vessels approaching from the outer system. They're bigger than anything we've ever built. Understood. Jake, Admiral Carter replied, her voice steady despite the tension. Remember, we don't know their capabilities yet. Stay alert and follow the battle plan. Dr. Foster's analysis suggests their shields might have weaknesses we can exploit. Dr. Ryan Foster sat at his station nearby, his fingers flying over multiple computer screens as he analyzed the alien ship designs. He was a thin man with wild hair and thick glasses, but his mind was one of the sharpest on Earth. For years, he had studied theoretical alien technology, and now he was seeing the real thing. Admiral, he said excitedly, their shield generators are creating a harmonic resonance pattern. If we can match that frequency and reverse it, we might be able to disrupt their defenses. Can our ships do that? Admiral Carter asked. Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks in the Experimental Fighter Squadron has the right equipment, Dr. Foster replied. Her ships are equipped with the new resonance disruptors we've been testing. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks sat in the cockpit of her fighter, the Stinger. She was a small woman with short red hair and green eyes that sparkled with determination. Around her, 11 other experimental fighters flew in tight formation, their sleek designs cutting through space like silver arrows. Stinger Squadron? This is Command, came Admiral Carter's voice through the radio. You are authorized to begin the attack. Target the lead vessel and test Dr. Foster's theory about their shields. Copy that, Command, Amy replied, her hands gripping the controls. All right, people, let's show these aliens what humans can do. Follow my lead and watch for the shield disruption. The Stinger Squadron dove toward the alien fleet like a pack of wolves attacking a herd of elephants. Their small size made them hard to target, and their speed caught the hegemony ships off guard. Amy's fighter was the first to reach the enemy, and she immediately began scanning the alien vessel's shield frequency. Got it, she muttered, adjusting her ship's resonance. Disruptor, firing now. A beam of energy shot from her fighter and struck the alien ship's shield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shield began to flicker and spark like a broken light bulb. Within seconds, it collapsed completely, leaving the massive warship defenseless. Impossible, Commander Kethver snarled as he watched his flagships. Shields fail. How did those primitive ships penetrate our defenses? Before his tactical officer could answer, more human fighters were attacking other ships in the fleet. One by one, the hegemony vessels found their shields failing as the humans exploited the harmonic weakness. What should have been an easy victory was turning into a disaster on the ground. Colonel Steve Patterson coordinated Earth's defensive networks from his bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He was a tough man with gray hair and cold blue eyes, a veteran of many conflicts who had never backed down from a fight. His job was to protect Earth if the space battle went badly. Sir, reported his aide, the aliens are trying to establish Ogata bombardment positions. Their weapons are charging up. Not on my watch, Colonel Patterson replied grimly. Activate the asteroid mines. Let's give these invaders a surprise they won't forget. High above Earth, hidden among the rocks and debris of the asteroid belt, dozens of nuclear mines waited silently. They had been placed there years ago as part of Earth's defense plan, disguised as ordinary space rocks. Now they began to move, their small engines pushing them toward the alien fleet. Commander Kethver watched in horror as his ships came under attack from multiple directions. The human fighters were like angry wasps, too. Small and fast to hit easily, but deadly when they found their targets. His heavy cruiser destroyer exploded in a ball of fire as nuclear mines struck its hull, while the battleship Conqueror spun out of control after losing its main engines to human torpedoes. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're losing ships faster than we can count them. The humans are using tactics we've never seen before. They're not fighting like any civilized species. What do you mean? Kethver demanded. They're using suicide attacks, sir. Some of their pilots are ramming their ships into ours rather than retreat. And they're using nuclear weapons like their common ammunition. Kethver's blood ran cold. In all his years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy that fought with such desperate fury. Most species surrendered when faced with overwhelming force, But these humans seemed to fight harder when the odds were against them, Lieutenant Commander. Amy Brooks pulled her damaged fighter away from the burning wreckage of an alien cruiser. Her ship had taken heavy damage, but she was still flying. Around her, the space battle raged on as human ships of all sizes attacked the alien fleet with everything they had. "Command, this is Stinger Leader," she reported. "We've destroyed 8 enemy vessels and damaged 12 more. But they're adapting to our shield disruption technique. We need new tactics." "Copy that, Stinger Leader," Admiral Carter replied. "Fall back and regroup. Captain Morrison is moving in with the heavy ships." Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the Defender as his battle group approached the alien fleet. The enemy ships were larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built, but they were also confused and disorganized. The surprise attack had worked better than anyone had dared hope. "All ships, this is the Defender," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "Target the damaged vessels first. Use nuclear torpedoes and focus your fire. Show no mercy." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Nuclear torpedoes streaked through space like deadly stars, while particle beams and railgun projectiles hammered the alien ships. The humans fought with a savage intensity that shocked their enemies back on Nexus Prime Station. Elder Vorthak received the first battle reports from his secret observers. The news was exactly what he had feared and expected. The hegemony's advanced fleet was being destroyed by the humans, and the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating Deathworld species. "The fools," he whispered to himself. "They have awakened something that should have been left alone." Commander Kethver watched his fleet fall apart around him. Half his ships were destroyed or crippled, and the humans showed no signs of stopping their attack. These were not the primitive savages he had expected to find. These were experienced warriors who fought like demons and never gave up. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving distress calls from the home fleet. They want to know why we haven't conquered the planet yet." Kethver looked at the burning remains of his once mighty fleet and made a decision that would change everything. "Send a message to High Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements. Lots of reinforcements." The first battle for Earth was over, but the war was just beginning. The Galaxy Council chamber buzzed with shocked whispers as the first battle reports reached Nexus Prime Station. Representatives from across the galaxy stared at their data screens in disbelief. The impossible had happened. The hegemony's advance fleet had been destroyed by the humans. "This cannot be accurate," declared Ambassador Zixtara, his yellow eyes wide with shock. "Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy. How could primitive humans defeat them?" Elder Vorthak sat quietly in his chair, his ancient face showing no surprise. He had expected this outcome, but even he was impressed by how quickly the humans had adapted to alien technology. Around him, other council members argued loudly about what this meant for galactic politics. "Perhaps we should send observer ships," suggested Representative Kalamith from the Crystalline Collective. "We need to understand what really happened out there." "I agree," said Elder Vorthak, finally speaking up. "But keep our ships at a safe distance. These humans are clearly more dangerous than we realized." 3 days after the first battle, Major. Kate Sullivan crouched in the cargo bay of her assault ship, checking her equipment one final time. She was a tough woman with short brown hair and scars on her hands from years of combat training. Behind her, 20 other soldiers prepared for what would become the most daring mission in human history. "Listen up, people," she said to her team. "Intelligence says the damaged hegemony cruiser Dawnbreaker is limping toward the outer system. Its shields are down and its weapons are offline. This is our chance to capture an intact alien ship." Sergeant Mike Thompson, a big man with kind eyes and steady hands, raised his hand. "Major, what if there are survivors on board? We don't know anything about alien biology." "Dr. Foster briefed us on that," Major Sullivan replied. "They breathe the same air we do, and they bleed red just like humans. The main difference is they're bigger and stronger than us. But they've never faced human boarding tactics before." The assault ship moved silently through space, its black hull invisible against the darkness. Captain Jake Morrison had personally selected the crew for this mission, choosing soldiers who were known for their creativity and determination. They carried modified mining equipment, plasma torches, and explosive charges instead of traditional weapons. "Target acquired," reported the pilot. "The alien ship is dead in space. No engine activity, no weapon signatures. But I'm detecting life signs inside." Major Sullivan nodded grimly. "Take us in. Remember, we want prisoners and technology, not bodies. Let's show these aliens what happens when they mess with Earth." The assault ship attached itself to the alien cruiser's hull like a parasite. The soldiers used plasma torches to cut through the outer armor, creating their own entrance instead of looking for airlocks. Within minutes, they were inside the enemy vessel, moving through corridors that seemed built for giants. The first group of aliens they encountered were clearly not warriors. They were technicians and engineers, tall creatures with green scales and 4 arms, but they carried no weapons and seemed more confused than dangerous. Major Sullivan's team quickly surrounded them, using hand signals to communicate in the alien ship's dim lighting. "Surrender," Major Sullivan said clearly, pointing her weapon at the lead alien. "You are prisoners of war." The alien engineer stared at her in amazement. He had never seen a human before, and he was shocked by how small and fragile they looked. Yet these tiny creatures had somehow boarded his ship and were now holding him captive. "How?" the alien asked in broken English. "How did you learn our language?" "We're fast learners," Major Sullivan replied with a cold smile. "Now, where is your command center?" Meanwhile, Dr. Ryan Foster worked frantically in his laboratory, studying pieces of alien technology recovered from the battlefield. His hair was even wilder than usual, and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. But his excitement was obvious as he made discovery after discovery. "This is incredible," he muttered to himself, examining an alien shield generator. "Their technology is advanced, but it's not magical. It follows the same physical laws as our equipment. And look at this." He called over his assistant engineer, Tony Martinez, a young man with steady hands and a brilliant mind for mechanical systems. Tony had been working around the clock to understand the alien technology, and his efforts were paying off. "Dr. Foster," Tony said, "I think I've figured out how their faster-than-light drive works. It's actually simpler than our own system in some ways. If we can modify our ships with this technology, we could travel twice as fast as before." "Excellent," Dr. Foster replied. "But first, let's focus on their weapons. If we can understand how they work, we can build better defenses against them." Back on the captured alien ship, Major Sullivan's team had taken control of the entire vessel. They found the command center and captured the ship's captain, a proud warrior named Sub-Commander Vexstar, who refused to cooperate with his human captors. "You may have won this battle," Vexstar growled, his red eyes blazing with anger. "But the hegemony will send 1,000 ships to crush your pathetic world. You cannot defeat us all." Major Sullivan studied the alien commander carefully. He was nearly 8 feet tall and built like a tank, with muscles that could probably crush a human without effort. But he was also wounded and afraid, though he tried to hide it. "Maybe not," she replied calmly. "But we'll make you pay for every inch of ground you take. That's what humans do. We never give up." The news of the successful boarding operation reached Admiral Carter within hours. She immediately ordered more assault teams to be prepared, and she began planning raids on other damaged hegemony vessels. The humans were no longer just defending their world. They were going on the attack. Observer ships from the Galaxy Council watched from a safe distance as the humans began salvaging alien technology and capturing prisoners. The reports they sent back to Nexus Prime Station shocked the assembled representatives even more than the original battle. "They're not just defeating the hegemony," reported Captain Zelenoff of the Watchers. "They're learning from them. The humans are reverse engineering alien technology and improving upon it. In just 3 days, they've made advances that should take decades." Elder Vorthak nodded slowly. This was exactly what he had feared. Death World species were not just tough fighters. They were also incredibly adaptable. They learned from their enemies and turned their own weapons against them. What about the hegemony? Asked Representative Kalimuth. How are they responding to these defeats? They're calling for reinforcements, Captain Zelenoff replied. Intelligence suggests they're assembling a massive fleet to crush the humans once and for all. But there's something else. Other species are starting to take notice. Some are placing bets on the outcome. Others are offering to sell weapons to both sides. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives realized the implications. The war between humans and the hegemony was no longer just a local conflict. It was becoming a galactic event that could reshape the balance of power. Throughout known space. Ambassador Zixtara sat in stunned silence, his confidence shattered. The humans had not only defeated his people's advanced fleet, but had also captured one of their ships and were now learning their secrets. This was not how the conquest was supposed to go. Perhaps, Elder Vorthak said quietly, it is time for the hegemony to reconsider this war. The humans have shown they are not the easy prey you expected. Never, Zixthara snarled, his pride overcoming his fear. The hegemony does not retreat. We will crush these humans no matter what it takes. But even as he spoke, Zixthara knew that something had changed. The humans were no longer just defending their world. They were actively hunting his people, capturing their ships, and learning their technology. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy was watching to see what would happen next. On Earth, Major Sullivan stood on the bridge of the captured alien cruiser. Now renamed the prize, her team had successfully taken control of the entire ship, and human engineers were already studying its systems. The vessel would soon be flying under Earth's flag, crewed by humans who had learned to operate alien technology. Major, Sergeant Thompson reported, we found something interesting in the ship's computer. It contains detailed maps of hegemony territory, including the locations of their major military bases. Major Sullivan smiled grimly. The humans now had the information they needed to take the fight to the enemy. The war was about to enter a new phase, and the hegemony was about to learn that invading Earth had been the biggest mistake in their history. Prepare the ship for departure, she ordered. It's time to show these aliens what humans can do when we're really angry. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured alien cruiser prize, watching the stars streak past as they traveled through hyperspace. The ship had been completely rebuilt by human engineers, and now it moved faster than any vessel Earth had ever produced. Behind him, his crew worked at stations that had been designed for creatures twice their size, but they had adapted quickly to the alien technology. Captain, reported Lieutenant Dan Cooper from the navigation station, we're approaching the hegemony supply depot at Kepler 442. Long-range sensors show 12 cargo ships and 6 escort vessels. Jake nodded grimly. This was their third raid into hegemony territory in 2 weeks. The humans had learned the locations of enemy bases from the captured alien computer, and now they were using that information to strike deep behind enemy lines. Each attack weakened the hegemony's ability to support their war effort. Signal the rest of the strike force, Jake ordered. Tell them to prepare for attack pattern Delta. We hit fast, grab what we can, and get out before reinforcements arrive. The human strike force consisted of 5 ships, all of them captured alien vessels that had been modified with human technology. The crews were volunteers, men and women who had signed up for the most dangerous missions in human history. They knew they might not come home, but they also knew they were protecting Earth from an enemy that wanted to destroy everything they loved. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Commander Sarah Mitchell crouched in the ventilation shaft of a hegemony space station. She was a small woman with black hair and sharp green eyes, a former Special Forces operator who had been trained for exactly this type of mission. Behind her, 3 other human soldiers waited silently for her signal. Target acquired, she whispered. Into her radio. The main power generator is 2 levels down. We plant the charges and get out in 15 minutes. Sarah had been leading covert operations against hegemony installations for weeks. Her team specialized in sabotage and infiltration. using their small size and human creativity to penetrate alien security systems. They had destroyed fuel depots, communication centers, and weapons factories, spreading fear throughout hegemony space. The aliens had never faced enemies like these before. Most species fought open battles with clear rules and objectives, but humans fought dirty, using every advantage they could find. They struck without warning, disappeared into the darkness, and left their enemies wondering where they would attack next. "Sarah, this is Command," came Admiral Carter's voice through the communication device. "Intelligence reports that the hegemony is moving their core fleet toward Earth. You need to speed up your operations." "Copy that, Command," Sarah replied. "We'll hit 3 more targets tonight. These aliens are about to learn what happens when you threaten human families." Back at the hegemony supply depot, Captain Morrison's strike force attacked like a pack of wolves. The human ships moved in. Perfect coordination, using tactics that no alien species had ever seen before. They targeted the escort vessels first, using nuclear torpedoes and particle beams to disable the enemy's ability to fight back. "Direct hit on the lead escort," reported Lieutenant Cooper. "Their shields are down and they're venting atmosphere." "Good," Jake replied. "Move to the cargo ships. We need those supplies more than they do." The human ships surrounded the alien cargo vessels like sharks circling wounded prey. Most of the cargo ship crews surrendered immediately, knowing that resistance would only lead to their destruction. Within an hour, the humans had captured enough supplies to support their war effort for months, but the real prize was the intelligence they gathered from the captured ships. Each vessel contained detailed information about hegemony fleet movements, supply lines, and strategic plans. The humans were not just winning battles. They were learning everything they could about their enemies. On the hegemony homeworld of Vexthara, High Commander Zulkan stood in his war room, staring at the tactical display with growing anger. Red marks showed the locations of human attacks, and there were dozens of them scattered across hegemony space. The humans were everywhere, striking at targets that should have been impossible for them to reach. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his intelligence officers. "How are primitive humans appearing deep in our territory?" "Sir," replied his chief analyst, a nervous creature with trembling hands, "they're using our own ships against us. Every vessel they capture gives them more capability to strike at us. And they're learning our technology faster than we ever thought possible." Zulkan's 4 fists clenched in rage. The hegemony had ruled this part of the galaxy for centuries, crushing any species that dared to resist them. But these humans were different. They didn't just resist. They fought back with a fury that shocked even experienced warriors. "What about our core fleet?" he asked. "Are they ready to crush Earth once and for all?" "Yes, sir," the analyst replied. 1,000 ships are moving toward the Sol system. The humans cannot possibly defeat a force that size. "They had better not," Zulkan growled. "Because if they do, we will become the laughingstock of the galaxy." Unknown to the hegemony commander, his conversation was being monitored by human intelligence. Commander Sarah Mitchell's team had planted listening devices throughout the alien command center, and everything he said was being transmitted back to Earth. Dr. Ryan Foster sat in his laboratory, analyzing the intercepted communications with growing excitement. His team had been working around the clock to understand alien technology, and their efforts were paying off in ways they had never imagined. "Tony," he called to his assistant, "look at this. The hegemony is sending their entire fleet to Earth, 1,000 ships." Tony Martinez looked up from his workstation, his face pale. "That's 10 times larger than anything we've ever faced. Can we handle that many enemies?" "We'll have to," Dr. Foster replied grimly. "But I think I have an idea. Remember that gravity wave generator we found on the first captured ship? What if we could modify it to create a trap?" Tony's eyes lit up with understanding. "You mean turn their own technology against them?" "Exactly," Dr. Foster said. "The humans have always been good at using their enemies' weapons. Now we just need to do it on a much larger scale." Back in space, Captain Morrison's strike force completed their raid and prepared to return to Earth. They had captured enough alien technology and supplies to significantly strengthen humanity's war effort. But more importantly, they had sent a message to the galaxy. The humans were not just defending their world. They were actively hunting their enemies. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Cooper, "we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Command." "Ship, they're demanding our surrender," Jake smiled coldly. "Put them on screen." The bridge display showed the angry face of a Hegemony commander, his scales bright red with rage. "Human vessel, you are in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately or face destruction." "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," Jake replied calmly. "You attacked our world without provocation. You wanted a war, and now you have one. But it's not going to be the easy victory you expected." "You cannot defeat us," the alien commander snarled. "We have ships beyond counting. We will crush your pathetic world." "Maybe," Jake admitted. "But we'll make you pay for every inch of ground you take." And when other species see what happens to those who threaten humanity, they'll think twice before making the same mistake. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. "Take us home," he ordered. "We have a war to win." As the human ships jumped into hyperspace, they left behind a scene of destruction that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. The Hegemony supply depot was in ruins, its cargo ships captured or destroyed. The message was clear: the humans were no longer just defending their world. They were taking the fight to their enemies, and they would not stop until victory was theirs on Nexus Prime Station. Elder Vorthak received reports of the latest human raids with a mixture of admiration and concern. The humans were proving to be even more dangerous than he had predicted. They were not just tough fighters. They were also brilliant strategists who learned from their enemies and turned their own weapons against them. "The galaxy is changing," he whispered to himself. "The age of easy conquest is ending. The humans have shown us that even the most powerful empire can be challenged by a determined enemy." Representative Kalimuth approached his chair, her crystalline form shimmering with worry. "Elder, what will happen if the humans defeat the hegemony? What kind of galaxy will we be living in?" Vorthak looked out at the stars, his ancient eyes, seeing patterns that others missed. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I suspect we're about to find out. The humans are writing a new chapter in galactic history, and all of us will have to adapt to whatever comes next." The final battle was approaching, and the entire galaxy was watching to see who would emerge victorious. The hegemony had numbers and technology on their side, but the humans had something else: the determination of a species that had never learned how to give up. The hunters had become the hunted, and now it was time to see who would survive. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching the massive tactical display that showed the approaching hegemony fleet. 1,000 alien warships moved toward Earth like a dark cloud of death, their combined firepower enough to destroy entire star systems. But Lisa's expression was calm, almost relaxed, as she studied the enemy formation. "Admiral," reported Colonel Steve Patterson, "all defense systems are ready. The gravity wave generators are in position, and our fleet is hiding behind the moon." As planned, Lisa nodded slowly. "Good, let them come. After weeks of planning, it's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's home." High Commander Zulkan stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Conqueror, the largest warship ever built by the hegemony. Around him, his officers worked frantically to coordinate the massive fleet as it approached the Sol system. This would be the final battle, the moment when the hegemony would crush the human resistance once and for all. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting minimal resistance. Only a few dozen human ships in orbit around their planet. It appears they're preparing to surrender." Zulkan's mouth twisted into a cruel smile. "Finally, these humans show some sense. Signal the fleet to prepare for orbital bombardment. We'll destroy their cities one by one until they beg for mercy." But the hegemony commander had made a fatal mistake. The human ships he could see were only decoys, empty vessels designed to look like a desperate last stand. The real Earth fleet was hidden on the far side of Earth's moon, Waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Captain Jake Morrison sat quietly in the command chair of the prize, surrounded by his human crew on the bridge of the captured alien cruiser. Behind him, dozens of other ships waited in silence, their engines cold and their weapons powered down. They were invisible to the approaching enemy, hidden in the moon's shadow like predators waiting for their prey. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Dan Cooper, "the alien fleet is moving into position. They're spreading out just like we predicted they would." Jake's eyes never left the tactical display. "Good. Dr. Foster's gravity wave generators are about to give them the surprise of their lives. Signal all ships to prepare for immediate attack." On Earth's surface, Dr. Ryan Foster and Tony Martinez stood in the control room of the massive gravity wave generator they had built using captured alien technology. The device was hidden deep underground, its power source drawing energy from Earth's molten core. It was the most ambitious project in human history, and everything depended on it working perfectly. "Tony," Dr. Foster said quietly, "initialize the gravity field. Let's show these aliens what human engineering can do when we put our minds to it." Tony's hands moved over the controls with practiced precision. "Field generators online, power at maximum. We're ready to activate on your command." The hegemony fleet moved into Earth's orbit like a pack of wolves surrounding their prey. Zulkan watched with satisfaction as his ships took their positions, preparing to rain destruction down on the human homeworld. He had dreamed of this moment for weeks, imagining the fear on human faces as they realized they could not escape their fate. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered. "Show these primitives the price of defying the hegemony." But as the alien ships prepared to fire, something impossible happened. The space around them began to twist and bend as Dr. Foster's gravity wave generator activated. The carefully planned formation of the hegemony fleet suddenly found themselves trapped in a web of distorted space-time, their ships pulled together like metal filings drawn to a magnet. "What's happening?" Zulkan demanded as his flagship was pulled off course. "Why can't we maneuver?" His science officer's voice was filled with panic. "Sir, someone is manipulating gravity itself. Our ships are being pulled into a concentrated area. We can't escape." At that moment, the hidden human fleet struck like lightning. Captain Morrison led the charge as dozens of human ships emerged from behind the moon, their weapons blazing with deadly fire. The aliens were packed together so tightly that every shot found its target, and their advanced shields meant nothing when they couldn't maneuver to avoid the attacks. "All ships, focus fire on the command vessels," Jake ordered over the fleet communication channel. "Take out their leaders and the rest will fall apart." Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks dove through the chaos in her fighter, leading her squadron in precise strikes against the alien flagships. Her small, fast ships were like deadly wasps, too quick for the massive alien guns to track. Within minutes, she had destroyed 3 enemy command ships and crippled 2 more. Admiral Carter watched the battle from her command center, coordinating the human attack with the precision of a master chess player. Every move had been planned. In advance, every contingency considered. The hegemony had walked into the most perfectly executed trap in military history. "Colonel Patterson," she said calmly, "activate the orbital defense platforms. Let's finish this." Hidden weapons platforms all around Earth's orbit suddenly came to life, adding their firepower to the devastating human attack. The hegemony fleet found themselves under assault from every direction, trapped in a gravity well with nowhere to run and no way to fight back effectively. "Hi." Commander Zulkan watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by the humans. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were destroyed in seconds by weapons that shouldn't have existed. The primitive species he had planned to crush was instead crushing him. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender demands from the human fleet. They want us to power down our weapons and prepare to be boarded." Zulkan's pride warred with his survival instincts. The hegemony had never surrendered to anyone, but continuing to fight would only lead to the complete destruction of his fleet. With a heavy heart, he gave the order that would change galactic history forever. "Signal our surrender," he said quietly. Tell the humans we yield. The battle was over in less than 2 hours. The mighty hegemony fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries lay in ruins around Earth's orbit. Most of their ships were destroyed or crippled, and their surviving crews were now prisoners of the humans they had tried to conquer. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of Zul'Kan's captured flagship, looking down at the defeated alien commander. The creature that had planned to destroy Earth now knelt before a human captain, his proud spirit broken by the devastating defeat. "High Commander," Jake said formally, "you are now a prisoner of war. Your empire's aggression against Earth has failed, and your fleet has been destroyed. Do you have anything to say?" Zul'Kan looked up with eyes full of shame and fear. "How?" he asked simply. "How did you defeat us so completely?" "Because you underestimated us," Jake replied. "You saw primitive humans and thought we would be easy. Pray, but you forgot that survival makes a species strong, and Earth has been teaching us to survive for millions of years." News of the hegemony's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On Nexus Prime Station, the Galaxy Council gathered in emergency session to discuss what this meant for the future of galactic civilization. The impossible had happened. A species that had been dismissed as primitive had defeated one of the galaxy's greatest. Military powers. Ambassador Helen Clark stood before the assembled representatives, representing humanity for the first time in galactic politics. She was a calm woman with silver hair and intelligent eyes, a diplomat who had spent her career preparing for first contact with alien civilizations. But she had never imagined it would happen like this. "Honored members of the Galaxy Council," she began, "humanity comes before you not as conquerors, but as a species that was forced to defend itself against unprovoked aggression. We seek peace, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves against any who threaten our world." Elder Vorthak stood slowly, his ancient frame showing the weight of his years. "The Council recognizes the sovereignty of Earth and offers humanity full membership in our assembly. Your species has proven itself capable of both great destruction and great restraint. We welcome you as equals in the galactic community." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was now a major power in galactic politics, respected and feared by species that had ruled the stars for millennia. The primitive species from the Death World had changed everything, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Zixthara sat in stunned silence, his dreams of easy conquest shattered forever. The hegemony was broken, its fleet destroyed, and its reputation ruined. Other species that had once feared them now looked to humanity as the new power in the galaxy. "This is not over," he whispered to himself. "Someday we will have our revenge." But Elder Vorthak heard his words and shook his ancient head. "No, my friend, it is over. The age of conquest has ended, and the age of cooperation has begun. The humans have shown us that even the mightiest empire can fall to a determined enemy. Perhaps it is time for all of us to learn from their example." On Earth, Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of her command center, looking up at the stars through the transparent dome above her head. The war was over and humanity had won. But she knew that this was only the beginning. Earth was now part of a vast galactic community with all the opportunities and challenges that brought. "What happens now?" asked Colonel Patterson.